Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session today on Modernized Business Processes with ZetaDocs Expense and Document Management. Joining us today from Equisys, developers of ZetaDocs, is Sandra Cummins. And before I pass it over to Sandra to cover on this hot topic, I would like to remind you that this session is being recorded and it will be posted to our on-demand webinar library for you to review and share with anyone. And if you do have any questions, please feel free to type those into the questions box and we will get them answered during our Q&A time at the end of our session. And so now I will pass it on to Sandra to kick off our presentation.
That's great. Thanks so much, Angie. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about ZetaDocs Expense and Document Management for Business Central as well as NAV. Working with our customers, I have learned that each organization is unique in their challenges on how to get the most out of Business Central and NAV. Today I'm going to talk about tackling the challenges that we hear from customers, those challenges that relate to expense management, delivery, and the archival of important information. I'd like to thank everybody who is attending the webinar today. I appreciate your time. And I hope that my presentation today is informative and helpful with regards to your document management or expense management needs. The people that benefit the most from a document management solution are most often Business Central or NAV users, primarily those who are based in the office. We find that most of the companies that we talk to, their accounting teams, their finance teams use a considerable amount of paper and shared network folders for a variety of reasons. So some things that you might want to ask yourself as I'm going through the presentation today, does your organization face challenges because employees are not storing documents in the same manner, which of course makes them difficult to find? Does your organization have challenges when it comes to delivering reports out of Business Central or NAV? And what about your finance team? We find that finance teams often get inundated with expense reports at the end of the month that then need to be rekeyed into Business Central or NAV for processing. These are some of the things I'm going to be covering in today's session. Over the years, we have developed techniques and solutions that help organizations modernize common processes like invoice delivery, employee expense approval, and allowing employees to be more productive by ensuring that they have access to the right information at the right time. Our history begins with the foundation of Equisys 30 years ago. Equisys is the developer of ZetaDocs software. We have offices in London. The U.S. office is in Alpharetta, which is just north of Atlanta. We started out with the development of a ZetaFax software, which allows users to send and receive faxes from their PCs, and then from there we developed the ZetaDocs document management and then expense management software. In 2007, we introduced ZetaDocs for NAV, starting with capture and delivery, and ZetaDocs is now well established as a widely used document management add-on with over 5,000 companies using it globally. With the development of ZetaDocs, we are one of the first NAV add-ons to achieve certification and accreditation from Microsoft Dynamics. And as part of our commitment to Microsoft, we strive for and earn that certification every year. And of course, now we have also received that accreditation on the Business Central side, and we're very excited to announce that ZetaDocs now supports Business Central Cloud with availability in App Stores. So I'm going to start out with a brief overview of ZetaDocs expenses, and starting with showing you how customers are using ZetaDocs expenses to eliminate that rekeying that finance teams often do, while also making it easier for field teams to enter expense reports from the road. By using ZetaDocs expenses, you have greater control over your expense management process. One of the ways that you have greater control is with the software and the app. Your team can create and submit an expense right from their location, wherever they are, using their phone or their tablet. And approvers can also approve expenses using their phone or the tablet. So it's a real nice instant mobile solution. Reimbursement of expenses, including mileage, is fast and accurate. The solution is designed so that everyone on your staff can use it. Business Central or NAV users can use Datadocs expenses as well as other people on your team who are not Business Central licensed users or who are not NAV licensed users. So, we know that most companies, a majority of employees are going to be submitting expenses and approving them, and they certainly don't all have to be licensed for Business Central or NAV, and the cloud solution with expenses offers that flexibility. When we add new features, the software updates itself because it is a cloud solution. So as a result, you are always on the latest version of the software, and it updates without you having to do anything. We also offer support from our U.S. office, meaning that you can get quick, direct answers to any questions that you might have. And keep in mind that Datadocs Expenses supports NAV 2009 R2 through NAV 2018 and Dynamics 365 Business Central as well. So I'm going to go through some screenshots here, some slides of what the app looks like and the process of creating and submitting and approving an expense using the phone app. So here you can see on the screen, this is what the phone app looks like. And we've got some choices here, the new expense. When you hit on the new expense tile, that's how you would create an expense and submit it. And then the new report would be how you would then submit the report. To create an expense, you would just hit the new expense tile and you'd put in your description. So I've got an example here, lunch with Acme. The vendor is WC Kitchen. Frequently used locations will pop up. We'll have a little drop-down window here. And for example, if you're taking clients to Starbucks for coffee, you just start putting STA and it's going to show Starbucks right away. Under payment method, I've got a corporate AMX card. Datadocs Expenses supports all different types of payment methods, whether that's Visa cards, MasterCards, personal credit cards, cash, American Express cards. So there's a wide variety of payment methods that the employee can choose in the drop-down menu. We use the USD dollar as our default. We have many different currencies available. If you have employees that are traveling worldwide say they go to Canada, then they could just, in the currency here, choose the drop-down menu, put in CAD, and then when they put in their dollar amount, it's going to automatically convert to the Canadian currency. In the example, we're using US dollars. The expense amount I've got here is $150.85. That's a very expensive lunch. So right away, we've got Datadocs Expenses programmed so that this little orange warning is going to pop out. Make it very clear to your staff that they've exceeded their limit, their expense limit. And this is nice. This way your corporate policies are enforced and employees aren't guessing. Everybody is very clear. I've exceeded my limit. My limit is $150. So at this point, what the employee would do is then they would put their business case in the notes section. And there is a note section here right below the expense amount where they would put in why they feel that the expense should be approved. The screen here now shows where you would choose your type, your expense type. All the GL codes that we use with Datadocs Expenses match the GL codes used within Business Central and NAV. And then coming down here, of course, we've got a tax field and we've got some dimension fields. We find that most of our customers, actually all of our customers, use dimension fields to further narrow down the expenditures, whether it's based on department, project, event, location. There's all different types of dimension fields that we can set up based on how your teams are using expenses and how you're processing them. So at this point, the employee has filled out all those fields. Now they're ready to add the receipt, And they can either take a picture of the receipt and upload it directly to the expense using their phone. They can also take a picture of their receipt and save it to the library and choose that picture from their library. Either way, that receipt is now uploaded to the expense. And at this point, then they would just go ahead and be ready to submit that expense with the mileage as a new expense report. Once they hit that new report and submit the expense, they're going to see the screen here that shows them who the approvers are. So it's very clear to them who's going to be approving the expense report and who's going to be processing it. And you can have up to 5 approvers per employee. And at this point, then the employee would just hit submit. And when they do that, Phyllis here is going to get an email notification. She'll get an email, and in that email there's going to be a link. And the email is going to say, hey Phyllis, you've got an expense report to approve. She would hit on the link in her email, and that's going to take her to her dashboard right here. So this is what the ZetaDocs Expenses website looks like. And this is Phyllis's dashboard. Every employee, approver, and processor will have their own dashboard. So employees can also go directly to the website and submit expenses from here as well if they don't want to do it on their phone or their tablet. Phyllis has received a task here. She knows that's the expense report that she needs to approve. So she's going to just click on this task, and it's going to open up the expense report. And here she can review all the details of the expense report. She can see that there is a lunch here at the steakhouse. There's the big orange triangle, so she knows right away that the expense limit was exceeded. That's what the warning shows on the expense report side. And then, of course, there's a mileage expense here, and she can see the history of the expense. David was the employee who submitted. Now it's gone to her to approve. So at this point, Phyllis can drill in to each expense, make sure that the GL codes match, make sure that receipts are attached, take a look at the business case because David has exceeded his warning, his limit. She can go into each one. If it's a clean report, there's no triangles, everything looks good to her, she can just go ahead and approve at this point. But because we have this triangle here, she knows he exceeded, so she's going to want to take a look at it. So then she would just click on the expense, and that's going to open up and show her all the full details of the expense that David had submitted, the vendor, where he went, the lunch, who the customer was, the dollar amount. Here is that note section I was talking about, so David would have his business case right here as far as approving the expense. She can see that the receipt is attached, it all looks good, the GL code matches, so she's going to go ahead and approve it. Now, when she approves it, it's just going to take her right directly to the next one here. And here's a nice example of a mileage expense. So when David put in his mileage, he chose the starting point and the destination. And right at that point, we have our Google Maps integration, and the mileage was very quickly calculated. As soon as you put in the starting point and the destination, that mileage and the rate is calculated. Finance teams love it because they know it's accurate, and there's no time spent on figuring any of that out, which is great. This little toggle here, when you hit it, you're going to see the route that David took. So perhaps he could have taken a more efficient way, or that looks good to the approver, but you can always click on this here to actually see the route that he took. And then, of course, Phyllis can now approve this one as well. Now, if there's something on here that she doesn't like, or even that last example that I showed, say, for example, David forgot to attach his receipt. She would hit this More button here, and she would have a choice to reject the expense. She can reject the expense, but it's not going to reject the entire report. It's just going to reject this particular expense. The rest of the report can be approved and not be held up. But it looks good to her. She's going to approve. And once she approves, it's going to take her back now to the expense report. And you can see with the history here that using web services, we have automatically created a purchase invoice for the reimbursable, and that's the mileage back to David. And we've automatically created a purchase invoice for the non-reimbursable, and that's for the corporate card. Now this is great. You don't have to do anything. Those purchase invoices are automatically created within Business Central. And in a moment, I'm going to show you what those look like in Business Central. With Datadocs expenses, we do have the flexibility to offer putting the approved expense in a hold so that these purchase invoices are not automatically created for those companies that want to be able to reconcile first. Most companies will do the reconciliation at the end of the month once they receive their statement. And when they receive that statement, then they can go ahead, download the statement, match the expenses, do the reconciliation. After that point, the system will automatically create the purchase invoices. So you have a choice to go either way. I do have a small video that shows the reconciliation process, and if you're interested, I'm more than happy to send that and show. So this gives you a brief overview of how Datadocs Expenses works and how quickly and easily you can create, submit, and approve an expense with the system. So I am going to go ahead now and move on to Datadocs Delivery and Datadocs Capture. And we're going to start with Datadocs Capture, and this is on the document management side. Let's take a look at how you can store documents related to the transactions that are crucial to your business. As we know, it can be really frustrating sometimes to locate a specific document from a directory that stores unstructured data or from a series of file cabinets where documents have been misfiled or perhaps lost. With electronic document management, you eliminate all that frustration. The Datadocs Fact Box allows you not only to easily store documents in both sales and purchasing records within NAV and Business Central, but you can also store documents in other records. For example, the Fact Box can be added to the cash receipts journal, jobs, production orders, ledger entries, journal entries, fixed asset cards. There's a lot of different other records within NAV where you can store your documents in addition to sales and purchasing. And of course, with Datadocs Capture, it supports the phone, tablet, and web client. So there is the remote access mobility that most companies now want to see when they're purchasing a software. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the demo. So I'm going to come out of my PowerPoint here. We're going to come right up to our Business Central screen. So now we're in Business Central, and you can see I'm on the sales order page. And here's my sales orders, and this is the Datadocs Fact Box right here. I am going to go ahead and move down to this sales order here for the School of Fine Art. And I wanted to show you how you can see that Fact Box on the list page, and we'll also have that Fact Box added into the sales order itself. Now, of course, in this example, I'm showing a sales order. We've got this sales, the Fact Box can be on your invoices, purchase orders, all different types. So here you can see we've got various documents that have been stored in the Fact Box. And how do we do that? We do that using our drag and drop technology. So let me go ahead. I'm going to jump into my Outlook here. So here in my Outlook, and I received an email. It's got a purchase order in it, and I want to get that purchase order into the appropriate sales order. So all I'm going to do at this point is just drag and drop that email into the Fact Box, and it's going to store there. And that's all you have to do. Now, with dragging and dropping, you can drag and drop the entire email, or if you just wanted to drag and drop the attachment, you can do that as well. All different types of documents can be stored here in the Fact Box. You can store PDFs, Excel files, Word files, as well as CAD files, design specs, recordings, drawings, videos, all different types of documents can be stored here in the Fact Box. And once you're in this Fact Box, if you're looking at, for example, this PO that I just put in, and you want to know the date, well, when was that PO stored here? You would just hit on the 3 dots there, and now you can see the date stamp. You can open it from here. You can copy the link from here. You can delete it from here. Let's just go ahead and delete that out and show you what that looks like. So if you want to keep the fact box clean, or you notice that something was added twice accidentally, then you can always delete a file as well. In addition, when you hit on this arrow here, that's going to take you out to your network. So you can go to a network folder and click on a document that perhaps was stored in your network, and it'll store here in the fact box as well. So very quick, very easy way to get all your supporting documents in the appropriate record. So, boy, I've added all of these. Now the sales order is going to become a sales invoice, or maybe directly to a posted sales invoice, and I really don't want to add all of these again. With Datadocs, you don't have to. You only add your supporting documents, you drag and drop them once, and then we apply record mapping based on your workflow and on your posting routine, so that everything that's been added here is going to automatically show up in the fact box on the posted sales invoice. And there's all different ways that you can route what you've added once based on your workflow. So for example, if you've got something going into a ledger entry or a journal entry and you want it to flow through, we would work with you so that you're only adding once. That gives you a brief overview of Datadocs Capture Essential and how you can store your documents and then retrieve your documents very quickly. Now, everything that's been dragged and dropped over here into the fact box is also being stored in SharePoint, in the Datadocs library in SharePoint. So companies that purchase Datadocs Capture most often will have SharePoint set up, and we create a Datadocs library. This way, all of these documents that have been stored here within the Business Central record, or of course the NAV record, are also stored outside of Business Central or outside of NAV in the SharePoint Datadocs library, so that non-Business Central and non-NAV users have access to those documents. Again, keeping in mind that we don't need to require that everybody have a Business Central license or a NAV license to access documents. They can also be found in the Datadocs library within SharePoint. We do this by applying metadata tags, and we don't do links, so there's no broken links if you need to move your files either. That gives you an overview of Capture, and that's Datadocs Capture. And one more thing I wanted to do before I jump back to the PowerPoint is show you what those purchase invoices look like from Datadocs Expenses. So let's come back in here, and if you remember, we had purchase invoices automatically created once that expense report was approved. And here we've got one for the corporate AMX card for the non-reimbursable. And we're going to open that up, and I'll show you all the details have been carried over. So this is where your teams do not need to do any more rekeying. Once that expense report is approved, we've created a purchase invoice. Everything is carried over. The GL code, all of the detailed item information, the dollar amount, and so on. So at this point, there's nothing your team needs to do but then just to process that invoice. Coming back out of here, I'll show you real quick what the reimbursable looks like, and this is of course for the mileage. Back to David, and again, here's the purchase invoice. Here's all the detailed information from his mileage expense, and now at this point it can, of course, be processed, and you can move on to the next. And here we've got that fact box. So I wanted to show you what those purchase invoices look like when they're automatically created once that expense is approved and or reconciled. So now we've got Datadocs Expenses, we got Datadocs Capture. Let's take a look at Datadocs Delivery. So I'm going to come back over to our PowerPoint and talk about sending reports out of NAV. We often hear from our customers that sending documents out from Business Central or NAV is an important part of their business, as this is where they need to send quotes to generate revenue or send out invoices to receive or retrieve payments. Using Datadocs Delivery, you can send out your quotes, invoices, and other documents in a batch as opposed to a single send. And this really saves a tremendous amount of time. This way, all of your invoices go out at the same time, and they go to your customers rather than having to send out one at a time. And by using the Datadocs batch delivery, you're ensured that when they are sent out, they're going to the appropriate contacts. Now, when batch emails go out, the system is designed so that each document is not only sent to the appropriate contact, but it allows you to personalize the email message. We have a series of templates that can very easily set up so that you can personalize the content of your batch emails based on your customer's needs. Templates can be used to create messaging not only in English but in other languages as well. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to go ahead and jump back into our Business Central, and let's take a look at how you can send out of Business Central, and of course this applies to NAV as well. So we've got our posted sales invoices here, and I want to send a series of these out in a batch rather than one at a time. So what I would do is I would just come up here to these three dots where our actions here, and here we have our Datadocs area, and I would just hit the send button here. Now when I do that, it's going to ask me, what do you want to send? So I'm going to go ahead, and here's where I would put in my range of invoices that I want to send. So I think I'm going to do, let's do 103180 to 103198. And I'm going to hit OK. Now, once I hit OK, the system is going to pull all of those invoices over and get it ready to send out as a batch. And there it shows me that they're working on it, and now I see my recipient screen. So I can check here. Here's all those sales invoices that I want to send out. Here's the companies that they're going to, the contact name. They're all going to go by email. We're going to use the sales invoice template with the messaging specific for sales invoices that are going out. It all looks good to me. Not only is it nice to send out batches so that you're only doing it one time and it's done quickly, but in the example here, your contacts are going to receive all of the invoices. So Trey is going to receive all three invoices in one email rather than getting 3 emails with each invoice attached, which we know customers like that as well. How do we do that? We just hit this consolidate email button, and I hit OK. And then it's going to send out the batch. So let's jump into Outlook again and take a look at what that email looks like. So let me just go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. And here's that email with the invoices that I sent out. Now when I go into that email, you can see your customer has received an email. In the subject line, right away, they know that there is a series of purchase invoices. When they open up their email, they'll see all of the invoices attached. And in this example, we've also attached the terms and conditions. We have customers that like to have a fixed document attached every time they're sending out invoices. So for invoices, they want that terms and conditions also to go out, and that is also set up in the template. Another example of how it can be used is if you're sending out sales quotes. If your sales team, they want to send out sales quotes, say they want to put in a marketing flyer or a promotional flyer, you can use that as a fixed document that's going to go out every time sales quotes go out, and so on. When you're sending out purchase orders or sales shipments, any type of document, if you want to have a fixed document included, you can set that up in the template. Let's jump down to the body of the email, and you can see here the messaging is very consistent. So using that template, every time you send out a batch of invoices, again in this example, each customer that's receiving the email with their invoices is going to see this same message. So it's very consistent. And of course, you can add to that as well if you want to put more in rather than just please find attached your invoice. It's custom. And then once you set up that template message, this is what that email is going to look like with the messaging. And that's how you send out a batch of invoices using Datadocs Delivery. It's very simple. You can see how fast and quick that was. And of course, you can use Datadocs Delivery with both your Business Central or NAV. And the last thing I wanted to show, I'm going to jump back over here to our actions and our Datadocs area. We have an outbox. And the outbox allows you to keep track of those batches as they go out. So when I just pulled up the outbox, nothing is showing here because all of these invoices went out. If, for example, there was an incorrect email address and there is an email with several invoices attached for a particular customer that the customer did not receive because the email was incorrect, that's going to show right here. So you can track to make sure everything has been received. If there's something that hasn't, it's going to show on this screen. Taking that a step further, coming up to actions here, we're going to go over to activity. Now I want to see my batch delivery history. And here's my activity log. It's showing me the history. All of these invoices went out on this particular day on the 18th. And you can go all the way down. You can stroll down the history of batches as they've been sent out throughout the week and throughout the month. So it's really nice to have this activity log and this outbox so that you can go back and keep track of your batches after they were sent. One more thing I wanted to show you real quick before I jump back out of Business Central. With Datadocs Expenses, we do have reporting available. And we're using a Power BI interface with Datadocs Expenses. So if you're wanting to pull reports based on expenditures, you can do that. On the screen here, I'm showing how you can pull a report based on all of your employees, and you can take a look. So, for example, here, David is definitely the winner in submitting the most expenses and spending the most money on his customers, so you might want to take a look at that. But it'll narrow it down by each employee, so you can pull a report based on employee, you can pull a report based on expense type. Say you want to see your travel expenditures, how much is being spent on airfare, what's the percentage, how much is being spent on mileage, what's the percentage. So there's different ways that you can pull reports with Datadocs Expenses as well. Okay, so I think we're good here with the demo. I'm going to now go back to my PowerPoint so we can go through just a few more areas before I close. Now that Datadocs Delivery Essentials and Datadocs Capture Essentials extension is available on AppSource, we can offer document management for Business Central Cloud deployments in addition to expense management. If you are considering upgrading to Business Central at any point, Datadocs includes features to ease the upgrade to Business Central for Datadocs for NAV customers. You can upgrade to Business Central, maintaining all of your Datadocs settings, rules, and templates. And the team there at Innovia and our team here can assist you with those upgrades when you're ready. We know that each company has its own challenges, and as I've shown with Datadocs Delivery, Capture and Expenses, each system has the flexibility to meet your requirements. If you'd like to explore the functionality of Datadocs further, I encourage you to arrange a demo with your Innovia rep. During the demo, you can ask questions that are specific to your process and your requirements, and then evaluate how Datadocs can help your business. We've got not only the availability of custom demos, we can schedule demos with you, but I also have a series of product videos, small, short product video functionality that I'm going to be sending Angie over the next couple of weeks, and she'll have those loaded so we can also send you videos of different areas of the functionality, for example, what I showed you today. I'd like to thank everyone for joining the webinar this afternoon. I hope it was informative and answered some of your questions when it comes to electronic document management and expense management. We are offering discounted pricing to all Innovia customers on Datadoc software through the rest of this quarter to the end of the year. And if you are going to be attending Summit in a couple of weeks in Orlando, we'd love to have you stop by the booth. We will be at booth 1419. At this point, I think I'm just going to pass this back to Angie and see if we have any questions.
Thank you, Sandra. Yes, we do have a few questions for you. Are you using paper and unstructured folders to store your important documents?
Yes, we do find that a lot of the customers that we talk to are still using paper and unstructured folders, and they're just really finding a way to eliminate not only all the space that file cabinets take up and the frustration of lost or misfiled or even stolen documents on the paper side, but even unstructured network folders can be really difficult because documents add up, and it just becomes a huge volume of documents that you have to sort through to find what you're looking for. So we do find that there's still quite a few companies out there that are looking for an easier way to store and retrieve.
Okay, thank you. And how often is it difficult to find important documents because employees at times are not storing them, they're not storing the documents in the same manner, so they become difficult to find?
Exactly. That's just expanding on that. It's not only misfiled or lost documents, but they're it can be, oh, I thought that because it's a sales quote, I put it in the sales quote folder, but actually it was for customer Salangorian and it should have been in the customer folder. That's just an example of how you run into that time issue and the amount of time it takes to find something when someone thinks they're storing it correctly in a customer file and the other person is thinking, oh, no, it's the sales order, so I'm storing it. So that's an example of that.
All right, thank you. And does your organization send reports out of BC or NAV one at a time?
Yeah, and that's the thing with Datadoc's delivery. Most customers that are using Datadoc's delivery are using it just for that reason. So they're no longer sending out one email at a time with an invoice attached or whatever that document might be, and so that their customers are not receiving all these emails. It really cuts down the delivery volume.
All right, thank you. And one last question. Do you find that finance teams get inundated with expense reports at the end of the month that need to be rekeyed into BC or NAV for processing?
Yes, and not only is it using Datadoc's expenses allows finance teams to really speed up that process because they don't have to rekey, but they're no longer inundated at the end of the month because your employees can submit as they go. Everybody can create and submit as they go. So it runs so much smoother rather than everything coming down to the end of the month and one or two or a few people on the finance team having to, put aside all of their other things that they need to do and just focus on expenses. The time savings, the cost savings in the time of not having to do it that way anymore is quite significant. And we find that customers that use expense management really like that free flow of creating and submitting it on the go rather than waiting to the end of the month.
All right, thank you very much, Sandra. It appears that those are all the questions that we have for you today. Please feel free to contact us or the team at Equisys, and we can answer any additional questions that you may have. All right, well, thank you again, Sandra, for presenting today, and to everyone on today's call, or if you're watching on demand, we thank you for joining us. And we do have a few more webinars coming soon. Next Tuesday, the 24th, we have Valerie Ingersoll from Innovia Consulting, and she will be presenting on Lanham EDI setups. And then on the 25th, we have Sana Commerce presenting on 7 e-commerce best practices to meet your B2B buyers' demands. And check out our website for more of our upcoming events, and that's innovia.com/events. And we also want to mention that we have our new podcast going on. If you haven't heard of it already, it's called the Innovia Conversation, and you can find out about all the different podcast platforms to listen to on our podcast page, and that's innovia.com/podcast. So check out the selection and subscribe so you get notified on all of our new episodes. And Innovia is proud to be a platinum sponsor of BCUG NAVOG Summit in Orlando, Florida, October 13th through the 18th, and we will be at booth 623 this year. And if you haven't already registered, or if you want more information about Summit, check out our conference page on our website, and that's innovia.com/conferences. Thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you again soon on another Innovia webinar. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you, Sandra.